Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the Western Hognose snake. So let's get started. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the Western Hognose. So for those of you who have not seen them before, they are a very memorable animal. The first thing to note is they have a very pointy nose or snout, and that makes them very distinct. They also don't have so much of like a neck like a ball python or a corn snake does. It's more or less they kind of look more like a worm rather than a snake. They also have a couple funny characteristics. A really cute one is they play dead. Mostly babies do it, but they actually flip their entire body over, open their mouth, stick their tongue out, and they just completely play dead. They are okay, but it's something they do because they are a very small species of snake. So this is really their only defense mechanism. They can bite, and they actually are rear fang snakes, which means they don't have fangs in the front. It's way back like where our molars are. And they actually do have a mild venom. So they are completely legal in New York, which is where we're located. Every different animal and species is different for every state, but hognoses generally are allowed anywhere because their bite and their venom, it's not so much like, for example, like a cobra or anything like that. It is very mild, and most people will just get a little bit of maybe swelling or like a normal bite, nothing drastic, but it's kind of like being stung by a bee. If you are one of those rare people who are allergic, you could have a lot worse side effects than other people, but they're known to not bite. Also, because they have the fangs in the back, rear fang snakes, they really have to chew on you and gnaw at you to be able to actually get any venom into you. So it's very rare that that's going to happen. These types of snakes would more or less play dead. They also will do things like hooding up, almost like a cobra. They'll actually flatten their neck out and sit up, and it's called hooding. They'll do that. They'll puff out their whole body. They can hiss. Almost sounds like a really low grumble because of how they hiss. They'll do a bunch of things before they bite. They're not known to be an aggressive species, and these guys are also a very small species. So we're going to put some footage in here. We have a couple of males that are almost full grown. So again, we went over to my buddy Jeff's over at Caveman Critters. He was nice enough to let us take all this footage of all these animals. I'll show a couple of different things that he works with, but I'm going to be putting his link in the description box below, so make sure you guys check him out, give his page a like. He has a lot of cool species that I don't have, and he was nice enough to let us get this footage, pictures, stuff like that, so make sure you guys give him some love. He has a couple of different morphs, so one of the most known is called a conda, and basically it's not so much the color as it changes and affects the pattern. So this is a normal, just a plain normal. Also a male, so that's to show you about how large they get. They will get a little bit bigger, but that's about it for a male. And this is a conda. It's also an albino, so it's got the nice oranges, stuff like that. But that's just to show you the reduction of pattern that is caused by the conda gene. You can get super conda. For what he has, it was just a conda and a normal. When it comes to females, they'll get about twice the size. So they can get up to, let's say, 36 inches, but they're only known to get around 800 grams. So to put that into perspective, anyone who has ball pythons, a large female could get 8,000 or 9,000 grams. A full-grown hognose female, only around 800 grams. So this is a very small snake. This is a colubrid, so it's just like a corn snake, milk snake. It's in that classification of reptiles. These guys really like to burrow. They love to dig down. They're terrestrial animals. So make sure when you have them in a bin or an enclosure, you have a lot of substrate, enough so that they can completely bury themselves. They really like to dig down into the substrate. Another trick for that is get things like flat cork bark or hides or things that are really low to the ground and scatter them around. That way not only can they get under the substrate, but they can really feel secure and underneath the hides and the things that you give them. Cork bark works really well. When they're babies, they're very tiny. So if you're planning on getting one of these, especially as a baby, make sure you're getting it from a reputable breeder. Make sure you do research. Make sure you talk to that breeder. These guys are known to be very good eaters when they are older, but when they're babies, they can be incredibly picky. As in, some are so picky you have to scent them with other weird animals or try feeding things other than rodents. So make sure you talk to the breeder, make sure that the animal is already eating, because no matter how good the breeder is, there are going to be picky and trouble babies, especially when it comes to hognoses. So just make sure the person you're getting them from is upfront, they're honest, they're telling you if that baby is or is not eating, and you do your research before just purchasing one of these. There are quite a few different colors, there's different morphs and patterns like that. So if you're just looking for a nice pet, you can pick from a lot of different colors. If you're looking into breeding, stuff like that, again, there is a good amount of colors and patterns for you guys to look into. I won't get into all of them in this video, but the most known are albino and Conda. Those are the things that people almost always talk about when it comes to hognose. So these guys, in my opinion, can be a very good starter snake if you are getting a baby that is already well started and feeding on very small rodents. Now these guys can normally eat frozen thawed without a problem. They're actually known for wanting more food than they're supposed to have. Like if it's feeding day for your older snakes and then 2 days later you feed the younger ones, the older ones are acting very much like they want more food. So make sure if this is going to be one of your first snakes, you get one that's well started and already eating, and it should be a very easy snake. They stay very small, which is good, especially if you're tight on space. A male can live in a 28 quart bin. A female, you're going to want something larger like a 41 quart bin, or if you're actually keeping an enclosure, a 28 quart bin is about 28 inches by 18 inches by only 6 inches tall. So you could get away with, if you want, say, a PVC enclosure, I would go with something probably about 2 by 1 by 12 inches tall. That should give plenty of room. And for a female, the exact same, but instead of 24 inches long, go with something around 36 inches long. So a 3 by 2 by 1 would be more than enough for a female. You can use lots of different substrate for these guys, but keep in mind they need a lower type of humidity. So if any animal was going to have aspen, these guys are very good. Aspen's known to mold when it gets really wet or things that need it more humid. It will still mold if these guys use the bathroom and you guys aren't on top of it, but generally they need it drier, so aspen works pretty well with this species. These guys have been documented to live up to 18 years. So make sure that this is something that you guys want when it comes to any reptile. Most reptiles can live a lot longer than what a pet store will tell you. So if you go to a pet store, my best example is, it says pet rats live 1 to 2 years. Pet rats can actually live up to 7 years if fed properly, if taken care of, with the right bedding, the right enclosure, and the right food. So make sure that you understand that this is a very long commitment, and think that this animal will be with me for possibly up to almost 20 years. So make sure before you purchase, you're ready for that long commitment. Now these guys do not specifically need UVB, but when it comes to their heating requirements, it's actually very similar to a ball python. You're looking at like 88 to 92 for their warm, and their cold side anywhere from like 78 to 85. Handling these guys is very simple. Like I said, they're very small. They're known for being laid back. You still don't want to get bit, but just know any reptile you have, it can and it will bite you. If you've seen my videos, a couple of mine I've gone to other people's houses like I did with Jeff, and quite a few people have been bit by their animals while I was there. Unfortunately, it happens. It's just like having your cat, and your cat scratches you occasionally. Sometimes your snake or other reptiles will bite you, and that's perfectly okay. When it comes to snakes, their only defense is their mouth. So if something very large like a human is coming at them, making them feel nervous, or especially when they're babies and they're just trying to be protective of themselves, don't get super upset or worried just because of one bite. It's gonna happen, and that's okay. That's just part of keeping animals. But as a side note, I've been keeping ball pythons for over 12 years now, and I've been bitten one time by my favorite snake, and nothing else has bitten me. None of the Ackie monitors, none of my bearded dragons, none of those have bitten me. They've tried, but they haven't. So it is a rarity, especially when you're taking care of your animals properly and holding them properly, but it will still happen, and that's all right. A normal can actually be a pretty wide range of color. We've got some footage of a normal, but they can be some of them almost a little bit green, they can be tans, they can be browns, but it's a pretty wide range for what their standard normal looks like. Just like a corn snake, I think these guys can be a very good starter snake. I always recommend that people do a lot of research, watch a ton of videos, but if a hognose is something you've been looking into, I'd say as long as you're fully aware of all the information and you're going to do things the proper way, go for it, because this could be a really good starter snake. They're growing in popularity because of their different morphs and stuff like that, and a lot more people are having them than they used to in past years, so I think that this is a great animal. If you're looking into breeding and stuff like that, we can do a whole breeding video at another time. I hope that answered any questions you guys might have, but if you have more, feel free to put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It really helps out, and I put up new videos every single Wednesday. So we'll see you next Wednesday.